So now we're going to learn how to conjugate verbs in the presente simple del modo indicativo. That means the simple present of the indicative mood, which is the tense that we use the most in Spanish. So this tense has two types of verbs, regular verbs and irregular verbs. We're going to start with the regular verbs, which are easier. That is, verbos regulares. As we said before, regular verbs have three different endings, AR, ER, IR. So let's start with hablar. As we saw before, we just have to change the ending. I have to remove the AR and then add a different ending. So for example, to say that he speaks, I would say habla. Él habla or just habla. If I want to say that we talk, we speak, I would say hablamos. Hablamos. So I just keep the stem and change the ending. In the case of to run, correr, I can also change the endings only. So for example, I would say I run, corro. We run, corremos. In the case of an IR verb, also we keep the stem. Escribir, the stem is the whole word without the IR. So we would say escribimos, we write. I can also say escribes, you write, always keeping the stem. So what you do need to memorize is the rules. So these are the rules for the changing of the endings. So each verb has different endings. So AR verbs, these are the endings for those. For I, the ending is O. For you, the ending is AS with and without the tilde. So the first option without the tilde is for Central American Spanish. The second option with the tilde on the last syllable, that is the Rioplatense version of the Spanish, which is the Spanish that we speak in Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and some other parts. So remember, if the second form, the second person conjugation, informal, in Spanish, doesn't have a tilde, that means that you are addressing them as tú. But if it does have a tilde, then you are addressing them as vos, somebody from Argentina, for example. For the third person, the ending is a, just a. The first person plural, the ending is amos. Second person and third is an. So here you have an example. So look at the endings and see how we keep the stem of the verb and just add this ending for each person. Hablo, hablas, hablas, habla, hablamos, hablan, hablan. So here we didn't even use the pronouns. Because of the endings, I can tell which person is doing the action, basically. Another example, the verb cantar, to sing. You can say canto, cantas, cantás, canta, cantamos, cantan, cantan. So that is very easy. That is how you do the conjugations for any regular verb that ends in AR. Okay then, so we have finished seeing how to do the first conjugation, the AR verbs. Now let's go with the second one. That means ER verbs. So as you see here in the chart, you can have all of the endings for these verbs. So we have O, S, the same thing with the second person in singular. The first part without the tilde is for addressing somebody as tú. And if it does have the tilde, we're going to address them as vos. Then is the E, then we say then we say hemos, and for the last two, we say en. Pretty straightforward. You just have to memorize these endings. Let's see them conjugated. So for example, we have the verb to run, correr, right? So let's say the verb with the conjugation already. Corro, corro. Corres, 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 corres. Corre, corre. Corremos, corremos. Corren, corren. And the last one is the same. So as we see here, the same as before, just by looking at the conjugation, that means the endings, we can see who the subject is. So it is very easy if you have memorized the conjugations and you identify that the verb ends in ER, then you're going to apply this conjugation, these changes, and you will be speaking in the simple present tense. So let's talk now about conjugation number 3, which is the IR verbs. Pretty much is the same as the one before. There are only two minor changes in the endings. So for example, for the first person singular, I'm going to say o, the same thing. But for the second person, look at the change. So if it is the Central American Spanish, addressing somebody informally as tú, you're going to say es, same as before. But in the Argentinian version, that's going to change to is. So you're going to say is. That's one of the changes. Then the third person singular stays the same, e. And the first person plural, then we have another change. We say imos. So instead of an e, we're going to put an I. And for the second and third person, it stays the same. It's N. So let's see that in action with a verb. So here we have the verb vivir, to live. So we're going to say vivo, vivo, I live. Vives, tú vives. Vivís, vivís. Vos vivís, the Argentinian version. Vivimos, vivimos. Viven, viven, and the last one is the same. Let's do another verb. So we have the verb escribir. Same thing. Escribo, escribo, escribes, escribes, escribís, escribís, escribe, escribe, escribimos, escribimos, and the last two is escriben. So if you know all of these endings in these three conjugations, then you're done. You just need to learn regular verbs and you can start speaking in the present simple tense.